uneducated people. So some were committed to do whatever it takes to keep the integrity of the Jewish people. They will go at any length to take arm against you if you spoke against spirituality, if you spoke against God, if you spoke against the church, if you spoke against the priest. They will do everything to track you down and destroy you because they have the definition of what should be the standard. And no wonder why, in the sense of true spirituality, when John the Baptist was preaching in the wilderness, he saw them coming in Matthew 3 and verse 7. He said, "You bunch of bronze of vipers, what are you doing?" Jesus saw them. He said, "You serpents, what are you doing here?" The definition of Jesus of spirituality was 100% contrary from the Jewish standard activity, from the inner activity that truly qualifies us as Christians. Now I wonder why the apostle said, "Your righteousness must exceed the extended activities of coming to church on the Sabbath morning and dressing in a nice looking purple shirt with black trousers with black and purple tie, and it must exceed that goal, that shoes that when you wear, you go back and put it into the plastic and keep. It must move beyond the ride that we sit in so comfortably. It must exceed the morning devotion to the sermon that is preached. It must exceed how you only come on Sabbath and then you go back and continue business as usual. It must exceed from the ordinary, mundane to the celestial mentality. And my friends, this morning, I want to let you know that Jesus wants us to have righteousness beyond that of the Pharisees and the scribes. And so let our righteousness move beyond to a salvific significance. Because the sincere children of God to spend time daily seeking to learn and understand their lives, they should take into consideration by placing themselves on the scales and see where they are with their God and where they want to go with their God. May I let you know that God's voice and will in every situation and in life decision must be clear to the child of God. The sincere children of God should not expect God to be a rubber stamp who sanctions only the things that are pleasing in their sight. And that is why we do not find meaning in difficult circumstances. We do not see God in our circumstances. If we ever saw God in our difficult times, we will realize that the burden will be easy and light as we move on life journey. Whenever every situation that comes your way, you are able to identify the place of Jesus Christ in your current situation, it will be easy to bear than removing God 100%. And that is why when you say testimony, people look around, they are wondering what kind of testimony to share. Because this week, my children were driven from school. This week, we did not have food in the house to eat. This week, we did not have transportation to go to the market. This week, my daughter was sick this week. And we forget that in the midst of that, there is something that God was preserving for you. 2 weeks ago, we were in Ghana. Anita called us almost 12 to 1 her time. And that was very early in the morning, about 4 or 5. A distressed cry. Daddy, I cannot breathe. I cannot breathe. Initially, she had told us she was suffering from some sore throat. We told Anita, find ginger. He took it lightly. And so at a point, her throat could not create opportunity for her any longer. Her nose could not allow her to breathe. I called the vice president for missions. I called the executive secretary to the president's office. We called all these people, and we called the last person, and we called the dean of health sciences. Nobody answered, and finally we got somebody who sent the ambulance. So the next day, the one that we called came to our aid and saw Anita. By that time, she was already discharged. What are you doing on campus? I'm not going home or going for vacation. I want to stay on campus. You cannot be on campus without some job. I'm going to employ you and give you $5,000 for this vacation. If Anita did not fall sick, and we did not understand that God was in control to heal her, and because she suggested, Daddy, let me just stay home, I'll recover. But because she went to the hospital, somebody from the hospital met her and said that you need a vacation job. What I'm trying to say, my friends, learn to see God in the circumstances. When you begin your spiritual condition that way, you will not lose sight of God's blessings. As disappointment will follow you throughout the process, and it will be difficult to recover. My friends, God's sincere people should learn to really trust God for everything within, everything they have, and everything they wish to do. The sincere children of God will depend on the Holy Spirit and put God first, best, and last. In their education, in your businesses, in your job, in your family, in everything you have done. I have taken some crazy decisions that I wonder, what was I thinking about? I went to Loma Linda and I took the people from. My wife will come here. How much for tuition? $7,000 United States dollars. Calculate it by your salary. Then the woman said, you cannot come here. I came to Liberia, I went to EcoBank. I won fees for admission and took some small money of $5,000. Paid admission fee. Correct to go. Who will pay this fee? How will we go? What will happen? I said, you better go. You get there, let them put you on a class. Knowing God has prepared something so spectacular. When the lady was arriving, God has sent somebody ahead of her with a school fees package for needy African students of 60% and later on 40% to make 100%. have taken some crazy decisions in my life. Anita, at a certain point at the age of 13, 14, we discovered anytime she was irritated, she will faint. And I said, no, you will leave from us. Just go to the US, go to school. God will take care of you. When you and God are doing it together, He will find solution to this crisis. And everybody, family members, where are you sending this girl? Go to school. 2 years now, with all the distresses and everything, since Anita went to that place, she's jumping up and coming down and playing all kinds of things. She had never had the experience. You need to take some crazy decisions in the midst of your situation. I'm speaking to people who are listening to me. I don't want to dwell on myself because that is not a sermon. Because my life is filled with crazy decisions. And maybe one day, when you begin to read some of my texts, you will find some pockets of evidences in what I'm trying to say. Our sermon today highlights the experience of a young rich ruler. The Bible tells us in Matthew 19, and behold, one came and said to him, good teacher, what good things shall I do that I may have eternal life? This man was a young person. And not only that, but he was the #1 citizen at doing time, maybe a British citizen or a US citizen, maybe during his time. And besides that, he was a law-abiding citizen. Maybe he was a legislator. Maybe. But then he was also a business guru. And besides that, he was a religious man who paid his tithes and offerings regularly and came to church when he felt like coming to church. He was educated in every way in the best universities of his time. He might acquire more than 2 masters, and our Liberians are good. I got 2 masters, I got 3 masters. He was an educated man with chain of certificate. He was a rich businessman with connections to get anything he wanted at any time. Life was good in every aspect you think of it. He was an elder of the local church. He led the church into some great project. But with all these things, it was not enough. It is not enough to be so critical of everything that the local church is doing and is passing through. You cannot make it perfect. It is not enough to be the #1 opposition in the community. It is not enough to be critical of the mistakes of your pastors. It is not enough to be critical of the mistakes of your church members who you don't understand that mistake that had led him or her to be ridiculed. She or he have gone in her room and naked himself or herself and fallen before God for His forgiveness and grace, and yet you are still being critical on that person when they have made their relationship right with God. It is not enough to desire the formation of a pressure group to fight corruption in the church on behalf of God. Some guys try it in the Bible, and it is their death that brought them some understanding in the life of their parents. And may I let you know that in more cases, when we become so critical, and those who become so critical, speaking from biblical and theological, historical experience, most of these people don't have good families. Most of the people don't have good jobs. Most of the people are school dropouts. Most of the people don't have good marital relationships. I want you to understand what I'm trying to say. Only God has the authority to speak and fight for himself. We must begin to pray for one another. That's why we have our authority. And may I let you know that come right, the one who developed our systematic benevolence, he was so pompous and critical of the church, he left this church and became an atheist. The one who talked about the sanctuary theology, Desmond Ford from Australia, became so critical and he left the church, the general conference, this fellowship. His entire church said, if you disfellowship our pastor, we will all go with our pastor. And the church sent all of them with their pastor. And the church is far better than it was when he was there. Now let you know that you cannot be critical. Let God use you mightily in a way that will bring definition to his church. It is not enough, my friends, to be identified as the spokesperson for righteousness in the church. I love my church so much. You cannot do anything in our church if the committee have not voted it. You can't bring a new theology if a committee had not voted. I remember I wanted to write a dissertation and I sat down before my committee and they asked me, Emmanuel, what do you have on your mind? I said, I want to understand the idea of probation closing while people are still alive. My advisor said, Emmanuel, let's leave that topic alone. If you want to graduate on time, bring more light on the church doctrines. Bring more understanding in the teachings of the church. You cannot be critical, but you can bring more understanding. Let's find a topic that will be easy for you to graduate on time. Those of us who are critical of our church, you are making a big mistake. You are making a big mistake. You are going to die and be buried, and God's church will remain and will remain standing because the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And so Jesus said to him, you calling me good master? And Jesus is using, I don't know what kind of machine, they help people may know. You penetrate the person even without touching the person. But Jesus was using a creative authority. He saw, he has scanned this guy. He saw that he was full of pride and sarcastic activity, and his life was full of pride for who he had become. And he had come to call Jesus good master. And Jesus said, you call me good master? No one is good but God. Jesus said to the young man, since you call me good master, what should I do to enter heaven? What you need to do to enter heaven is to keep the commandment of God. And the guy provided some sarcastic smile. This thing in his mind, I've been doing it from birth. And even now, when you check the tithe records, I am the highest in Mafia Central Church. I come to helping people to send them to school. Check the list, I am number one. I got more than 100% on my scholarship for this year. Why? He is not saying this word verbatim. Jesus is scanning him, and he is seeing the things that that is behind his sarcasm. The kind of smile a person gives he or she feels that he knows more than others. The kind of smile somebody gave when he thinks he